Hello guys, welcome to a new video. First of all, yes, you did see the title correct. And secondly, before you ask, no, I'm not planning on having kids anytime soon. Especially after having done this video. Anyways, what initially motivated to do this specific video was the fact that now I'm living here in Munich and I consider that I am independent, I'm no longer living with my parents, nor being supported by them. And then when you start living on your own and you realize how expensive it is, you actually start thinking on how much money really your parents have spent throughout your lifetime until you have reached this point in which I am right now. In any case, I am currently 21 years old. So my question now is, do you want to know how much my parents have spent throughout this time? If the answer is yes, come with me. We will go together through a journey through all the costs that I've had throughout these 21 years. See you! Whoa. But before I start the journey, just for the record, I was born in Barcelona and I was raised in a town farther north from it. So basically, you can calculate that I've lived most of my life in Spain. As a result, the cost that I will be sharing in this video, at least in my opinion, will be pretty representative of what you can expect to spend having a child in Spain with all the particularities of the country, meaning that you have public healthcare and public education. I promise I don't want to extend that much on the introduction, but I feel like this video should be something that every single one of us should see at least one in their lifetime. And it's not because I'm the one making the video, but more of the content and the real costs of actually having a child. And you will say, but why? Well, I think that it would conscientiate a lot people on which is the real cost of having a child, because it is no joke and it is super expensive. And maybe by showing this video or the figures, it could lead to families actually deciding to have less kids, and by that also reducing the amount of new children born every year. Because let's be honest, let's face the truth, we are definitely more humans than the planet Earth can handle. But in any case, I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't have kids. That's your decision. I just hope that with this video you can make a more informed decision when you finally decide to have one. And in exchange of the super valuable information I will be sharing with you, I just ask for one tiny little thing, which is as always, please make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. So that said, thank you so much and let's jump right into the video. Okay, cool. Now that I probably have already lost half of the people who started watching this video because I made this intro too long, I feel like I should at least start by already sharing with you the final amount that my parents have spent on me throughout these 21 years, and afterwards we will go through the calculations and the whole breakdown of it. So here it is, without any further ado, the amount that my parents have spent on me over these 21 years has been of 211,190 euros. And yes, I was shocked too when I first saw this figure, so I'm just going to leave you 2 seconds for you to assimilate that. Yeah? Enough for you? Okay, cool. Now let's go and see how did I reach to this number. And before I go through the whole breakdown, I just want to mention that this is a rough estimation, since it is absolutely impossible for me to have all the expenses since I was born. For that, my parents should have started creating an Excel and writing down all the expenses I had since I was born, but they didn't. Anyways, I feel like the estimation I will be giving you can be pretty representative and accurate in terms of how much can you end up spending when having a child. The first expense after you are born, because of course I'm leaving aside, I assume that you are having a child naturally and that you don't need any insemination or to adopt a kid, because of course that would add on top of the amount that I just shared with you. But in any case, the first expense we must consider is food, because it's just basic to live and you need it since the moment that you are born. For this expense, I consider that I ate 120 euros worth of food every month since I was born throughout these 21 years. And this is of course considering that when you're a baby you don't eat that much, but then as you grow older you start eating more, and I actually for instance eat a lot, so buying super cheap things, trying not to buy a lot of meat and so on, I easily spend 150 euros on food just for myself, so I figured that averaging that out, 120 euros was pretty representative. And just to clarify, me, and well, actually not just me, but my family as well, we are very cheap, which means that 99% of the times we buy non-branded products, and we are always looking for offers on things to buy. So of course, many other people will spend much more than what I just shared. Nevertheless, assuming this 120 euros per month throughout my lifetime, I have costed my parents 30,240 euros just on food. The next expense is the fact that when the child is born, one of the two parents usually stops working, basically to take care of the child. And I know that there are maternities and paternity leaves in many different countries. Of course, they are different depending on which country you're watching this from. But even if you get these aids from the state, usually you don't get the full salary, but a deduction of that. So that's also like kind of like costing money in the sense that your parents are not able to earn their full salary because they have to take care of you. Moreover, at this point, I also included the cost that families have to pay to the babysitters, because when the kids grow old, you usually, like the parent or mother goes back to work, but then they need somebody to take the kids to school or pick them up after school, and for that you need a babysitter. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have your grandparents living very close to you, you can exploit, your parents to pick up your child, and then you can save money by doing so. But if not, I guess that you have no other option than getting a babysitter. And that's not it. Within this calculation, I also included the summer camps, because here in Spain, the summer holidays last for 3 months, which is extremely long, but of course parents have to work and they don't have 3 months of holidays. So most of them put their kids in summer camps, which of course also cost money. For all of this cost, I estimated roughly 500 euros per month during the first 10 years, which is basically when your child will need more these kind of services. And of course, I'm leaving aside the fact that many of the children keep going to summer camps even after they are 10 years old. In total, this adds up to 60,000 euros approximately. Next comes clothes, and here is where I probably spend the least of all, since my parents almost didn't buy anything for me until I was 12 years old and I started going to high school and so on. But up until then I had been using reused clothes, either from my cousins or friends of my parents. And this is honestly a great thing to save money on. For this calculation, I used 250 euros per year on clothes, also including shoes, throughout these 21 years. And the total amount with that is of 5,250 euros. Moving on to the next one, we have the medical costs. And just to clarify, in Spain there is public healthcare, which is free. Therefore, except for dentists or more specific things, you don't really have to pay anything on this regard. My calculation is of 100 euros per year, which includes the pills, the medical equipment that you might have to buy, small things, if you go to the dentist, and if you want any extra vaccines that are not included within the public healthcare system, which are subventioned. In total, we can add an extra 2,100 euros. Now comes school, which in Spain it is also public and free, although of course you always have the possibility to take your kids to a private school. But well, it is actually not completely free, since parents have to pay every year the books for the kids, and this cost more than 400 euros at least when I was going to school. In any case, we were always getting second-handed ones or trying to get them, so I averaged 350 euros that we spent on books every year throughout the 15 years that I was in school, from when I was 3 years old until I turned 18 years old. In total, calculating these 350 euros per year, we reached to 5,250 euros spent on that. But now that we are within school, there is also an extra thing to be added on that, which are the school excursions and also the membership paid for the Parents Association. Which it's this association that basically helps you get the books, and also for the canteen in the school and some other things. On that, I calculated an extra 100 euros for the 15 years, which add up to 1,500 euros. In most of the cases, when your kid starts going to school, other expenses arise, and these are, for instance, sports activities or just extracurricular activities after school. For this one, specifically in my case, it was sports. I consider it over 15 years because I didn't really start practicing sports in a club until I was 6 years old. On that, I counted 1,000 euros per year, which includes whether you are, in a basketball, football club, the local club, if you also have the gym membership, and also maybe sometimes you also go skiing in winter, or doing some kayaking or whatever extra activity that you do. Total of that is 15,000 euros extra. And now comes the fun part, which is traveling. Because usually when you have a kid, you tend to take it with you when you travel somewhere. In my case, for instance, I'm lucky enough to say that I have traveled a lot with my family, always on a budget though. This means that we hardly ever slept in hotels, and we were mostly sleeping either with a tent or with our camping car, and yes, we did have one. And just for your information, I was doing more or less 3 trips per year, one longer one in summer and then maybe one in Christmas and one in Easter. So I consider that I probably traveled more than the average, but as I just mentioned, it was always on a budget. This means no restaurants, no hotels as I just mentioned, usually also not museums since we were doing mostly outdoor activities and really trying to cut back on as many things as possible. Therefore, I computed 1,500 euros per year on this, and adding all of it up throughout the 21 years, it comes up to 31,500 euros on trips. And now is where the thing starts getting interesting, because your kid turns 18, and at least in Spain, you can only get your driving license when you're 18 years old, and in my case, at least, my parents paid for that. This was an extra 850 euros in my case, approximately, but I must say that I really didn't take that many driving lessons and that I didn't fail any exams, so I feel like I probably spent much less than the average. Together with the driving license at the age of 18, your kid will also start university. I mean, not that he really needs to start university, but I feel like this is a pretty common path, and at least the path that I followed. In my case, I studied in a private university that costed 7,000 euros per year, and this throughout 4 years equals 28,000 euros spent on university. But I must say that in Spain, universities are also public. They cost on average 2,400 euros, which is of course much less than the 7,000 euros that I paid, so technically this you could save money on. Finally, I added a separate section that is kind of like aimed to cover for all the things that I have not mentioned here, but that having a kid also costs. This includes many different things, such as for instance the cost of the furniture for the room when you have a kid, as well as pillows, mattresses, towels. Also, for instance, the trolley and the nappies when you're a baby. Also, if your parents, buy you a bike, the language classes, if you were to take them, presents that you get from your parents, sports material, toiletry, games, electronic devices, like if you pay your kid, for a phone or a computer, and just all of these things that I have just not mentioned. On this, I calculated 1,500 euros per year, which makes a total of 31,500 euros extra that we should add. And if we just include everything I have mentioned, we reach to the total that I shared that with you at the beginning of 211,190 euros, which is the cost of having a kid for 21 years. But as always, I also like to put things into perspective, so if we divide this figure over the 21 years that I just mentioned, we reach to 10,056 euros and 67 cents that you spend a year, which is still a lot. After all of these calculations, I must say that I don't consider myself to be a very expensive kid. I have never really asked for much. I really always try to cut back on expenses, and I think that that's partly because my parents taught me from an early age the value of money, and I think that's super important. I would say that I'm around the average that parents spend on kids. Because yes, I might have, traveled a lot, practiced a lot of sports and gone to a private university. But maybe many other parents have taken their kids to restaurants very often, maybe once a week or something like that. Maybe they traveled less, but when they traveled, they went to hotels while I was camping and so on, as I just mentioned. So again, I guess that all of this balances up, and as always in life, it's just a matter of priorities. And now just very quickly, I must say that within this, I just share with you all the expenses of having a kid, but there are many states that give aids to parents, like something like 1,000 euros for each kid that you have. That of course, it also helps to pay for that, but as we saw, the more than 200,000 euros that you spend, it's something, kind of insignificant with comparison to that. And obviously, I didn't mention this, but when you're a parent, you can of course forget about having free time for yourself. In my calculations, I obviously didn't include time, but we should also put time, in my opinion, as, you know, cost opportunity thing, which is that you are of course devoting a lot of time to your kids, but all of this time you could be devoting it to something else to generate you more money and make more money. I know that in the end, life is not just about money, but it's just to picture that having a kid is really a lot of money. My conclusion to all of this is that if you want to have a kid, you should first make sure that you are aware of the responsibility that this is, and that this is something that you really want to have. And secondly, that you have the economic means to support having a child, and also that you are willing to spend this much money on a child. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know the deal. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and see you next time.
Close till I get up. Time is barely on our side.